radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening. How you doing? How you doing? Right? Fade to Black. Whew, man, what a week. Well, today is Thursday, July 30th, 2026. Tomorrow's the last day of the month. Wow, this month blew by. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Let's do this, man. Closing out the week in style. A great week, as always, here on the show. Monday night, Patty Negri was here, Old World Magic. She's absolutely amazing. Tuesday night, we had James Van Prague, Life Beyond Death. Last night, Mark D'Antonio here, UFO Propulsion Systems. Oh, by the way, update on Mark D'Antonio. So he, if you listened to the show last night, he sent me an email today because he was talking about that object that I saw last week on the 23rd, that it may be some kind of rocket and rocket launch. He wrote me today, there have been no launches. Yeah, I knew it wasn't, but you need somebody like Mark, right, to go in and look at that stuff. He's an astronomer. That's what he does. Okay, so anyway, quick little update. Tonight, the one and only Cliff Dunning is with us. And tonight we're going to be talking about stuff that is ancient civilizations. We'll do a little dance around the world and talk about some stuff. With Cliff, the conversation can't go anywhere as it should, and it will tonight. And with that, I did just post in the chat really quickly that I had a bunch of work done today on the exterior of the house. I had a bunch of trim removed and stuff repainted and restuccoed and stuff. It took all day. And they just wrapped up. So I went out to check. They're just doing a little touch-up paint around the window frames and stuff in the front of the house. So I was worried about noise, but we're not going to have any noise. Bet you should have heard him earlier today. Goosh, goosh. I go outside. You guys doing a sledgehammer? What's going on? Anyway, so no noise during the show. I was a little nervous about that. With that, tonight is my Friday. It is your Thursday. A great way to wrap up the week because we did everything this week. We did some witchcraft stuff. We did life after death. We did UFOs, and tonight we're going to be talking about my favorite subject, ancient civilizations. And that's a perfect way for me to wrap up the week. So with that, let's get Cliff in here. He's a researcher, of course. He's an author. He's also a show host. He's got his podcast. Oh, by the way, his podcast, he's 1,000 episodes deep into that, man. Good for Cliff. Good for Cliff. He's been doing that for about 13, 14 years. The links for everything are below. I have been covering on this show with guests and also on my TV show, Beyond Belief, what is going on right now in Giza. And it does tie into other civilizations around the world. I talk about that a lot. There's a definite connection to all of that. We'll be diving into that. But it's all the other breaking news that has been coming out of Egypt. Of course, the Scans Project and what is happening underneath Giza, those pillars, and now a second Sphinx. And that is heating things up. There were a couple of other recent discoveries in Egypt lately of the traditional kind, right? There's some more tombs in Saqqara, which that's never going to end, by the way, unless they figure out how to suck the sand up with a vacuum. But yeah, it's always something going on out there in Egypt. Tragically, I'm going to mention this before I bring in Cliff. I should say sadly, we've got a conflict, we've got a war going on over there, and most of the countries have been left out of it. Egypt had their port attacked for the first time, so Egypt is now sucked into this. And what I don't want to see is tourism or any of the sites over there. Damn, or no, no, no. I don't want that. I was in Giza. I was literally staying at the Mina House when the rockets were fired on October 7th out of Gaza and into Israel. And I know how quickly the tensions can rise over there. I've experienced it myself, and so has Cliff. Tourism was what drives that country. They don't export anything but sand. And I just don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. I love Egypt and everything about it. And so does Cliff. Let's bring Cliff in. Cliff, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, Jimmy. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's good.
Hey, that's not good news about bombing in Egyptian ports. That's not good at all for tourism.
No, it's, I mean, already, so I was there with Muhammad on October 7th, and we come out of the Mina House early in the morning and walking towards the restaurant. You know the drill, right? And I was staying in the old building, which I love.
Yeah.
So anyway, going across the, and I heard an explosion. We all did. And that was pretty strange. Now, it wasn't from Gaza, but it was an explosion nonetheless. And that was kind of weird. And then like 2 hours later, we all know what happened. And I didn't dig it. They immediately doubled up our security, right? So we had one pickup truck in the front with police, one pickup truck in the back, and of course, our personal security. You know how it's done. They doubled everything. Now we had two pickup trucks in front, two pickup trucks in back, and the military presence all over Egypt. It was crazy how that happened within hours. They're used to it. I'm not. I was like, wow. I mean, the spirits were good. I mean, it wasn't like there was something to be afraid of. But when things like that go down, and okay, let's move on. It bums me out. When I read that today, it's like, no, man, no. We don't need that.
I mean, it frightens people.
It frightens people. I don't want the tourism messed with, and I want people to go over there and have a good time and think about things without worrying about other things, because there's so much to see and do there, and you want to have a good time, and you don't want to have stuff like that in the back of your mind, which we did. Gaza it's like 75 miles from the Mina House. Right. So we're at the Mina House having breakfast with the Great Pyramid, right? Reach out and touch it. 75 miles away, they're shooting at each other with missiles. 75 miles is too close.
It is. Yeah.
That's like from your house to Sonoma Vineyards. Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's too close, man.
Yeah. Too close for comfort. Yeah.
Now you've been at this for a long time.
Yeah.
Let's back up for a minute. What sparked your interest in not only ancient civilizations, but specifically Egypt?
I've wanted to go to Egypt for years, and I was able to do it after having a podcast for about 10 years. We decided, I had people on the podcast emailing me going, hey, why don't you go? Why don't you talk about it all the time? You have all these people on the program. Why don't you do it? So I was, didn't know who to talk to. And I was lucky to find Muhammad Ibrahim and his lovely wife, Noha, on a whim. And I just trusted the spirits, the gods. And we did our first tour in 2018. And he was excellent. He took us to all the locations. One of the things, and you do this all the time, he has connections. He can do these private visits to the Great Pyramid, to the Osirian, to other temples that are outside of the normal general tour focus.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, when you're in these sites on your own without the general public, it's much more impactful. And so from that period on, I've been using him on a regular basis. And I am more of a Central American focal point person. I'm really focused on that. I started going to Mexico when I was about 30 years ago. It tells you how old I am. But Egypt's been a fascination as long as I've been interested in Mexico. And with the advent of artificial intelligence and my own research, it's really becoming fascinating, because if you use prompts and ask questions of some of these anomalies, like the Great Pyramids, the Abu Simbel, the largest freestanding sculptures in the world, you're going to get some very strange responses, some very strange data. And one of the big ones is that, and if you haven't been to Egypt, you only can guess and hear from us who have been there. The pyramid and the Abu Simbel, they are not from the dynastic period. There's just no way that those pharaohs could have built them. They didn't have the technology. And what AI does is say it's a little too much for the pharaohs. That's about as far as it'll go. And then you keep prompting and asking more questions, and it begins to fine tune the possibilities of unknown culture, unknown science. They don't have the answer to it, because it's a compilation of all the current world knowledge, but it helps give you some foundation for writing about it.
The other part, I like where you're going with this. Technology is one thing, and it's a big hurdle, right? Okay. So there's that. But they didn't have a population big enough to also do the construction. And that's a big, it's something that Egyptologists don't want to discuss. They don't want to talk about that. If you go back into the historical data, Cliff, as you have, and I speak about this enough, hopefully that, this will start to be absorbed. If you look at the population of Egypt at 2700 BC, if you stick to the orthodox timeline of this, not our timeline, but what's taught, at 2700 BC, there was 500,000 people in the country. Okay. In the country. Now, what they will tell you is that the pyramids were built at 2650 BC, and it took 20 years. What they don't tell you is that Khafre and Khufu, those two pyramids, were built at the same time. They don't tell you that part. And the other thing is, this is their own, this is what is taught. This isn't my belief, that 20,000 people built it over a 20-year period and had 2.5 million stones. What they don't tell you is it's actually two. It's two pyramids. So it's 40,000 people over 20 years and 5 million stones. They don't bring that up because it messes with their dogma, right? And so that flip. But if you take that and you cut 500,000 people in half, right? Men and women.
Yeah.
So you have 250,000 people that are left. You take out the old, you take out the young. You only lived till you were 30, 35 years old in ancient Egypt. But flip that. And then the next thing you know, you're left with the number of about 40,000 able-bodied men.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that every male in the country was building these pyramids. Who was in the army? Who was growing crops? Right? Who was protecting the borders? Who was this? Who was that? Who was none of that is discussed. So technology, big hurdle for sure. The other thing is they didn't have enough people to do it. And that to me, it's just a black and white. not a conspiracy guy. I'm not even an ancient aliens built the pyramids guy. I could be. But if you just go with the data that they've given us, the story doesn't add up.
I love it when an engineer or a physicist comes to the first time for the Giza Plateau and looks at the pyramid. They're like, this is not from any paradigm that we understand. This is done by a whole different class of science, a whole different class of cutting and machinery. You've been inside the Great Pyramid. You've seen those huge blocks of granite. There's no mortar between each stone. It's stone on stone, 50-ton blocks of granite. And there's no way that the pharaohs were putting that up. Where are the other examples? This is what I always say to people. Where are the other examples of megalithic stonework on that scale? There aren't any. Now, what there are, and I'm working on this right now, is there are these magnificently huge, what I call colossi statues of Ramses II, of the Abu Sibyl, supposed to be Ramses II. And those are also works of great design and creation. I asked AI about the sculpture at Memphis. It's the Ramses II laying on its back. You've seen it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it came out with two things. One of the first things it did is it said it's likely Old Kingdom, not New Kingdom. That was the first interest that I got. The second thing was that the polish is such a high sheen that it actually reflects light. So at nighttime, it actually glows. I have pictures of this. And the other thing is, it is so well conceived and so beautifully carved that it's likely to have been carved by some form of machinery that we don't understand.
It is so perfect.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You can't find imperfections in that. In proportion, in artistry, right?
Yeah.
Aesthetically, you look at it, it's so pleasing and perfect. The Ramesseum, that we're talking about a 10-story tall, 1,500-ton statue carved out of red granite. It's and it's beautiful. You've been there. You go up and you stand next to the torso, right? Where the arms are broken off. You stand, it's like 15 feet above your head. And that's just the torso on its back. It's so big. And that thing stood upright. You've seen the feet there. They're bigger than a car.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
When it was seated, and the top of the head was higher than the columns of the temple. I actually wrote a prompt program for it, and I had it reconstructed in AI. And when you see it completely reconstructed, it's a mind blower.
Same thing at Abu Simbel. Same thing at Abu Simbel. I mean, that's nuts. But okay, so I just have to back up. When you see Ramses didn't play, okay, neither of them, by the way, Ramses or Ramses II or Ramses the Great. I don't get it. What I don't get is the hardness of red granite. Let's just cut to the chase. The hardness of red granite. Nothing is harder. Dolerite, yes, and they say that they pounded, but they didn't have stainless steel. These are the obvious things. They didn't have those kinds of chisels. They didn't have any of that. How are you shaping Ramses' face symmetrically perfect left and right with the stone?
Exactly. Yeah.
Bullshit. I'm just calling bullshit. I'm sorry.
Well, they're saying they had hardened copper tools to do the fine work.
To do what? To do what? To do what? To do what? What was a copper chisel? Yeah, I get it. I've heard the same things that you've heard.
Yeah.
But what use is a copper chisel? What use is a copper chisel? I watched a documentary. And by the way, you didn't answer my question about why the fascination early on in your life? What attracted you to Egypt?
I go
We're
way
gonna-
back. I go
right,
way
right.
back.
So we're gonna go
Yeah.
back and
Okay.
and get to that. But I watched a documentary. It's 3 hours long of these artists and stone workers that wanted to carve and shape a chunk of red granite that was about 4 feet wide, maybe 6 feet tall, 4 feet square, rectangle, and they're going to shape it into a face, and they wanted to somehow shape a nose out of it, right? Okay. With copper and dolerite stones. Okay. Do you know how long it took them to change the flat surface to a slightly curved surface? 2 years.
Oh my God.
2 years out there. Bam, 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 bam. And you watch every time the dolerite hit the granite, a fleck of red granite sand comes off. That's it. You're not. So they ended up going with power tools and other stuff. And that took a while too. But 3 hours later, when he's or 3 hours later, 3 years later, when you see what they had.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
totally crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was it for me? It was like Time magazine in 1973 with King Tut's, death mask on the cover, kind of sealed the deal for me at the age of 9. What got you started with Egypt?
I had a very eclectic grandfather who had a library. He was a country doctor in San Luis Obispo. And I got involved and interested in Native Americans and the Maya at about 12 to 15 and started reading books. He had every National Geographic. In the old days, in the 1920s, National Geographic would send teams down to these new discoveries and photograph them. And so I was just eating this stuff up and constantly interested in it. And then when I was in my 30s, I became a program director for a couple of different conferences. And I wanted to learn about the ancient past of not only the native people, but of the ancients in different parts of the world. And so I started developing panel discussions around experts, early archaeologists, people who were anthropologists as well. And later, as you know, I was the program director for Whole Life Expo. It's funny that you talk about ancient civilizations. I did a panel around the same time that Dances with Wolves came out. And I had a few of the panelists that were from the movie, but also some other Lakota and people who came and talked about their ancestry. And that just triggered a constant interest in ancient civilizations, which really led my interest to Maya culture. And I was invited to come down there in 1996, which was my first trip to Mexico, and I was blown away. I walked into a private tour at Chichen Itza. And in those days, you could climb the pyramids. So we're up there climbing the great El Castillo, the great castle pyramid, and that locked it in for me. From that point on, I was just enthralled in the Maya.
Were you prepared to walk up on Chichen Itza the first time?
I was with a girlfriend.
It's so awe-inspiring, right?
Well, and if you've ever done it, in those days, they actually placed a chain in the middle of the stairway because the stairs are roughly 4 to 5 inches long. They're tiny. And if you move incorrectly left or right, you'll tumble. So you had the chain and you slowly make your way up there. I was halfway up there looking down going, what the hell am I doing? You could easily fall, and people have fallen, but slowly make your way to the very top. And when you're at the top, it's simply amazing. It's you're looking out at the ball court. You're looking out at these other smaller pyramids. And right there, I knew there's the story that we've been told about the Maya was it was wrong. At that time, they were considered Stone Age people. They weren't sophisticated at all, even though they had found this Dresden Codex, which is this amazing book on the Venus, the planet Venus and its various movements. They had an observatory there.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys were not simple people at all. And so it basically changed it. And this is what I'm writing about right now in this book called The Maya Controversy, is all of these anomalies that are not answered by university archaeologists.
They're afraid. They're afraid. They're afraid. They think one way, but they act and say another. And that's, I mean, they trip out just like we do, but they've got to stay in their lane.
That's a good point, though. You know, I've talked to many times with Dr. Richard Hansen, who's the director of excavation at El Mirador in Guatemala. And what's really weird, Jimmy, is that he has established that the builders of those huge pyramids, which are the largest in the Americas, El Mirador, they are pre-classic. And this is what people don't understand. The pre-classic period is 2,500 years ago. What we typically hear from is the classic period. But no one's talking about the pre-classic because they don't know where to put these guys. And so the earliest Maya are the greatest builders. Now, answer that one for you. It's a total anomaly. And I love talking about it. I love writing about it because it puts archaeologists on their heels a little bit and makes them think a little bit about what they're saying about their dialogue on the Maya. Much older people.
How do you, and we can apply this question to any civilization, right? Now we're talking about the Mayans, but it applies to Egypt. It applies to Mesopotamia, China, Japan.
Yeah.
Even the United Kingdom. Prehistory is prehistory is before writing. Okay. But different cultures had different years of prehistory. We speak the King's English, right? right. We write, right? And that's a new language. That's new writing. Okay. And before that, there is no history for the United Kingdom. For Egypt, if you want to start with the Narmer palette, which is 3200 BC, before that, there's no history. But prehistory is different for Peru. Prehistory is different for Mexico and any other country or civilization on this planet. So that's what I struggle with is prehistory and what is accurate. And that's where those anthropologists and those historians, they don't have anything to go on.
Well, they want to see epigraphical, they want data. They want to see it in black and white. And we are getting ideas about the kings of Maya. And that's a new book by David Stewart. He wrote a book, just came out, it's called The Four Heavens, where he's talking about the king's list. And this is what's also very interesting, is that we know about the Sumer king's list. We know about the Egyptians' king's list. The Sumer's king's list goes back 400,000 years.
Yes, it does.
The Egyptians goes back about 150. We're looking at the Maya. The Maya looks like it goes back about 100,000 years and perhaps older. And the anthropologists are saying, well, this is mythology. And this is the big problem we have. The PhDs that are writing our history are not allowing themselves to go any further than known history, 30,000 BC. And this is the problem. And so until we have more writing that comes from these areas, we're left with guesswork and decipherment from people like I just mentioned, David Stewart, who's one of the great Mayanists in Mexico. But it's very
He's
frustrating.
great. It is, and I look at the data too, and so when I hear again, I want to say the word dogma. When I hear the dogma come out of universities and Egyptologists and anthropologists, where they fight these numbers, they're always fighting these numbers, and one of the numbers is, well, it's 3200 BC. That's the Narmer palette. By bringing that up, I have eyeballs. You look at the Narmer palette, where you have an obvious, upright, perfectly functioning society. You have the written languages there. Hieroglyphs are already represented. His name is on the palette on both sides. As you know, it says Narmer on both sides of the palette. Him smiting his enemy, right? He's got him by the head. He's doing it. That pose was the same pose for 3,000 years of every pharaoh in Egypt, right? Smiting. Ramses, right? Everybody did it. Well, that says to me that the Narmer palette isn't the first. We just haven't discovered the older stuff. They learned how to write hieroglyphs the day that they made the Narmer palette? No. You know what I mean? Everything was established on that palette already. And so they were upright and functioning way before that palette was carved. That's my take. And I just don't think I'm wrong with this.
It's kind of scary, though, because if you look at this Ladanta pyramid complex in El Mirador, I just got back from there last December, and they have a 275-foot pyramid complex that I climbed, and that's the earliest period of the Maya, the pre-classic, over 2,000 years ago. But the truth of the matter is they have not carbon dated it, so they don't know. It could be significantly older, and it's looking like it's going to be older because they keep finding these very, very old buildings. And there's also a place in Tabasco where they found what they call a platform, which looks like a runway, an airline's runway. It's huge. It's a mile long by half a mile wide. It's built up with stonework, and it must have taken years to build. But they don't know what it was built for, but they know it's pre-classic because it's dated at over 3,000 years. So this is all the latest material that we're not getting feed from. We're only hearing it occasionally in research papers. This is where AI comes in. You can ask AI to do pull the latest white papers, give me the data, so that you know what's going on. And this is it's amazing. And the Maya are looking like a very, very old civilization.
What's your take on the SARS scan project right now? Not only in Giza, but the other places that they are also getting into, and then we'll get into the second Sphinx in a minute. But when everything blew up and went viral, probably almost a year ago now. Has a year gone by? Yeah, it's probably right.
Almost a year. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your take?
Well, when they first did the Khufu pyramid, that was Filippo Bioni's protocol, which is he figured out a way to take the satellite imagery and to fine tune it. I wasn't really that taken by it until I got a email from a former military officer who told me quite frankly that they had used it for 20 years in the military to pierce the ground so they could drop ordnance under the surface. And so that was my first take on it. And then I don't know if you remember Carmen Bolter.
Mm-hmm.
She did the pyramid series. She and Klaus Dana, who's another writer, did some analysis using SARS technology and mapped an entire underground tunnel system in the Giza Plateau. Now, they did a follow-up at Hawara, the Hawara pyramid, and they found evidence of a labyrinth this is 10 years ago, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
So the technology has been around at least that long, if not longer. So I'm now somewhat of a believer. My only thing is that unlike LiDAR, where you get crisp squares, you get buildings, you get pyramids, you get causeways, with the scan that comes from SARS, it's more blurry, less defined. And I think this is where Egyptologists have a problem. It's not really coming up with solid shapes. It's kind of like, Bioni's saying, well, this is where the head is, this is where the neck is, this is where the paws are. And I think that kind of throws a lot of people off, including myself. And I was talking to him the other day. I said, is there any way you can fine tune your scans? And he said, well, we're working on it. So hard to say.
I want it to be real. I want something. And the reason for me, and it's kind of selfish, but there are so many unanswered questions with Egypt, with myself and everybody else. Okay, if you're going to make these claims, then get it solid and make it stick. I don't want to see the members of this community. We were talking about the community earlier, right? That's it, man. I'll be the dick for the community, Cliff. I have no problems with that. I'll stand up for this community. And I don't like having my heart broke, and I don't want to see the community get their hopes up and then have the rug pulled out from under them. I don't want that. I want it to be real. 1 kilometer pillars leading to a cavern with structures in it underneath Giza. Well, we've all seen that movie. Okay. I would love for that to be real. I don't want to see broken hearts.
Here's something that should give you pause and hope, which is Trevor Grassi, who's a researcher, just published a video where they have identified 1,000 visible shafts on the Giza Plateau. These are perfectly square, cut in solid stone shafts that lead to the tunnel system. And he's published it without the permission of the Egyptian Antiquities Department or anybody else. And so that's going to be kind of a beginning of some revelation, I hope.
Well, I like Trevor. He's a friend of mine. Trevor caught my eye many years ago when he was just some kid posting these crazy videos of him going out into the Giza Plateau and finding holes and tunnels and crawling into them. I was like, man, this dude's crazy. All right. I ain't going to do that, but I'll watch the videos. And so I've been following him for a while. He's been on the show a few times, and I stay on top of his research. He has been doing this for a very long time. I've been all over the Giza Plateau, just like you have. And I've seen a couple of things. I don't know how he finds this stuff. He's always got some video of him climbing into some shaft.
I don't know how he gets permission.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He must be paying a lot of money to get access.
You know what? He's kind of invisible, though. He probably just wanders out there with his cell phone and looks around, and nobody's paying any attention. That's what I think. I've never asked him. I might have, actually. How do you pull this off? He went into the Tomb of the Birds when the Tomb of the Birds was locked up, and he's still going into there, shooting video. Anyway, Trevor's great. He's got, I don't think he was prepared for the visibility that he is now exposed to. That it takes a certain amount of thickness of skin to deal with this stuff. Yeah. And I asked him, Cliff, this is not a joke. I asked him to come on this show. I asked him to come on Coast to Coast. All right. That's how long. And he's like, no, man, it's not my thing. I can't do it. No. And he turned me down for years. And then, finally I got him to, come out of his shell and
Yeah.
do this stuff. But it's pretty exciting, and he's certainly put in his time. He has.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the Egyptian Antiquities Department will ever release data on an underground tunnel system. It would open up so many problems for them. They'd have to explain it. Why haven't you known about it?
But
Zahi Hawass,
the tourism would go through the roof.
but you couldn't allow people down under there. It was too risky,
But that, yeah, I'm not talking about that kind of tourism.
You mean
Talking
exposing
about-
the data?
Yeah. Holy shit, there's a undiscovered city underneath Giza, and Nat Geo's there filming it with what's his name? Josh. Josh Gates is there. The tourism would go through the roof. That's hey, I think they're hiding stuff too. Don't get me wrong. They're looking at it the wrong way. If you really want to blow this out of the water, do that. What was the biggest news in the world in 1922? Biggest news in the world, not World War I ending. King Tut.
Yeah.
Right? The biggest news. People want this.
They love it.
Want this out. Yes, man. So I really hope that Trevor and Biondi and the team has figured something out, because I find it tremendously exciting, and I don't want it to be nothing.
So here's some good news. So team went to Hawara, got permission from the Antiquities Department to dig one of the corners of where they thought a part of the pyramid was, and they found part of a wall that could be this labyrinth that Herodotus talks about in his history book. And if that is allowed to continue, that would be groundbreaking, because that structure is pre-Diluvian. It's very, 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 very old. And Hawara has always been a problem, because it's been a problem for the Antiquities Department. Zahi Hawass has denied it exists. And we were just out there. And the very odd part of it is that it looks like there's a whole section of rooms, because the sand has fallen and it's outlining squares, and there's squares that go out for about a quarter of a mile. So this thing is huge. And if they can excavate, and it's only 30 feet underground, if they can excavate a labyrinth, that would be true history. That would really open the Pandora's box. Yeah,
they kept Hawara on lockdown for a long time. They made it like a military exclusion zone. You remember that?
Yep. You couldn't go.
No, you couldn't go.
So why they're allowing it is hard to say, but Zahi Hawass flat out denied there was anything there for 20 years. And we know that Trevor's friend William Brown did ground penetrating radar there, and actually shows walls, slabs of granite, and walkways 30 feet underground.
Well, and let's not lose sight of something. I'm speaking to the audience, not to you, Cliff. You know this. But let's not lose sight of when Napoleon made it to Giza, 1798. That was under 50 feet of sand, the whole plateau. Sand was going up the pyramids. It was just all desert. The head of the Sphinx was the only thing that was visible, right? And so something that we take for granted today is the leveling of the Giza plateau. Now we're talking about for not one pyramid but two, the leveling of 18 acres or more, that from corner to corner, Stone Age man, by the way, from corner to corner, a half-inch deviation. A half inch.
Yeah.
A half level. Perfect. Perfect. Now, just tell me how. That's all. That's all. Tell me how that's done. Just help me out. And that boggles the mind. But we didn't know this until we cleared out the sand.
Yeah.
You follow me? The workers' town, that was buried in sand. That's a recent discovery, right? That was one of Zahi's, big discoveries. But the Sphinx enclosure, the Sphinx temple, that was all under sand. That's all been removed. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. The more that I think it's all built up, the more sand that we remove, we start to reveal stuff. The same thing with Horara.
The new darling of touring now is a place called Tanis, and I don't know if you've been there or not, but that is a real anomaly because most of that city is under thick mud and dirt, and people are wondering, was there a flood here? Was there a tsunami? What happened here? But what they're discovering is some of the largest freestanding sculptures in the whole area. The average size of these sculptures are 25 to 30 feet tall. They're amazingly ornate and detailed. And we don't know who the people were that were there.
No, in swampland, in muddy swampland.
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it?
I've been wanting to go there for a while, and I finally got a chance to go there last May this year. And I was blown away by the sculptures. They're all monsters, and beautiful. Huge.
Just sticking out of the mud. And not enough archaeologists around to go and get that stuff done. Tanis, everybody, was made famous by Indiana Jones. That is where they went to go find the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah, that was in Tanis. Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah.
To have Steven Spielberg ahead of the curve. But yeah, Tanis is one of those. Well, if you there are all kinds of temple sites and cities up and down the Nile that are not Karnak and are not Kamambo and they're not Edfu. And it's not Luxor, but it's all the way up and down the Nile where these things are there and present, but they're not visited. And at one point they were a really, really, really big deal. But there's a lot of sites like Tanis up and down the Nile. They're everywhere, and there's just not enough time, people, and manpower and money to go and open these places back up.
Yeah, one of the things that I've discovered through various interviews with Egyptologists, though, is they admit that there's a lot of usurping or rebranding of temples. And so, like, if you go to Dendera, to the Hathor temple, gorgeous temple. Little do we know that thing's been reused probably 5, 10, or 1,000+ years in the past. And different pharaohs left their marks on these columns, left their marks on the doors. Have you been to the roof for that? You must have been. That's a megalithic roof. Those stones are 40 tons that make up the roof. How in the hell did they raise them 80 feet in the air?
It's crazy. When you go now, Dendera, which I love talking about, and you're right, unbelievably dramatic.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably dramatic, man. You walk in there and you feel it. You feel the feminine energy, the color. It's vibrant. It's unreal. Go up on that roof. That roof, man. That is crazy. And it's big, too. You're not expecting it. You're not expecting it. Then you go into the small temple on the roof with the zodiac, and that's tucked away in the corner. And the walk to get over, it'll wear you out. You have to go up the stairs and everything else.
It's funny you mentioned Napoleon, because Napoleon's scientists took the original ceiling from that room it's now in the Louvre in Paris, and the Egyptians have been begging the French to get that back for like
You know what the
30
French
years.
did? You know what they did? They said, okay, you can't have the Zodiac, but we'll make you a plaster cast.
I know.
So
It's
that's
not
what's
the
on the roof
same.
in there. Yeah, it looks great, right?
Yeah.
But no, man, it's a copy. And
They made it look like granite. It's rubber or something, but I mean, it's unfortunate that is the way it is, but same thing with the English. The British Museum has some beautiful sculptures of Ramses and huge monstrosities. And the Egyptians have been asking them to bring them back for years, and they
ain't
just
gonna happen.
won't do
Ain't
it.
gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. The Berlin Museum, the Louvre, the British Museum, the Met in New York.
Yep.
Before there were any laws or regulations or anything, man, we went in, us colonizers, right? And we took all the good shit. We took everything, and then if you think about it, all the Egyptian workers, they were all part of the black market thing.
Oh, they're paying
And-
everybody off.
Yeah, everybody, all the way from top to bottom, and the good stuff. By the time King Tut, which was 1922, when Howard Carter discovered that tomb, that's when Egypt just stepped in and said, "This stuff stays here. Just shut the tomb down." You remember they shut it down for a couple of years or a year. No, nothing leaves the country. But up until 1922, everything left the country.
Yeah. It's amazing. I thought the Americans were innocent until I went to the Met. And
The
in
Met is incredible.
1922, they disassembled an Isis temple,
From Dendera.
shipped it to New York, and reassembled it inside
Reassembled it.
the Met.
Yeah.
It's the whole temple.
Yeah. That's one of William Vanderbilt did that. And they're proud of it. They're proud of it. The Egyptian wing at the Met is incredible, and it's
beautiful.
It truly is, and it's full. It's full, right? And so when you think you've seen it all, you go to that back room where the temple is. They have got, and I know you saw it there, Cliff. I'm going to explain to everybody. They're so proud of the theft, so they show the pictures on the wall of the temple covered in sand up to the roof, right? Okay. And they have all the pictures of them bringing the sand down, exposing the temple, and all big black and white pictures on the wall of the process. And then they get to the end, they've dug it all out. And what do? They take it apart and put it on a boat and take it to New York. They took a temple, man. It's unreal. It's beautiful, and it's huge, and it's inside of the Met, but they stole it. Yeah, man. William Vanderbilt. You know the obelisk in the back of the Met?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's right when you're at the temple, right?
Oh,
In that room. It's right outside
Yeah.
those windows. It's right there.
cool.
Anyway, that is one of the Alexandria obelisk that Antony, or one of the Romans, brought up from Luxor. So they brought two obelisks up there. One of the obelisks went to England, and that was Cleopatra's Needle, as it was called. It was lying on flat in Alexandria. The one that was upright is the one that's at the Met. And that was also a William Vanderbilt play. He was like, man, England's got one, Berlin's got one, the Louvre's got one. What about New York? So he went. That's a whole movie in of itself. But he just shows up. And the owner of the obelisk was an Italian businessman. I think he owned some grocery stores or something, shops in Alexandria, but he didn't want the obelisk on his property. He was like, man, just take it. It's in the way, man. It's in the way. I need to. So William Vanderbilt went in, took that, put it on a boat, sailed that to New York, and that's the one that's in. So yeah, everything was just stolen.
It must have been mullahs in the turn of the century. There was no governing body in Egypt, so people could just go in there and
Totally.
Yeah.
That's exactly what was happening. I
Yeah.
think the postal service was run by Italy. The antiquities were run by France.
Yeah.
The Turkish were kind of overseeing Cairo. You know what I mean? But the Egyptians were not in control of anything. It was always some outside force, and they were broke and bankrupt, and so it was just like what you're saying. It
Yeah.
was bad. It was
Yeah.
bad.
Apparently, they used to sell mummies. You could buy, truckloads of mummies.
You don't have one?
I don't want one. Someone said that they would eat mummy meat or something for, ceremonies, very esoteric occult ceremonies, the English. So
I think the Romans would drink crushed mummy powder for headaches.
I don't know what they were thinking. That just is gross. And I don't know what the medicinal purpose would be. It sounds pretty bad.
Well, that's what's really crazy. We'll get back to ancient civilizations, everybody, but I'll tell you something really crazy. Here in the United States, Egypt mania, just took over in 1922. Haircuts, makeup, clothing, furniture, everything had to look like Egypt, and architecture, houses, everything was Egypt. And one of the things that everybody had to have was you had to have a mummy or a piece of a mummy in your house, in your cabinet of curiosities, right? Come over to dinner. We're having a party this Friday. I got a mummy leg.
Jesus.
Come on over and see my mummy leg. And that was the viral sensation. How great. Where did all the legs go? Where'd the mummies go? Where'd the arms go? I don't know. Do you have any relatives with a mummy?
No. I hope not.
It was when you go and you look at that part of our history and you see it, that's why we have this crazy interest in Egypt. It's fascinating, and until Napoleon, it was a myth, right? It was a pop culture, you know what I mean? It was just like this mythological place, covered in sand, and it's mysterious and gods and all of this, but we didn't know, and until Napoleon went there and documented it. Up until that point, Egypt was forgotten, and that's why it just blew up. Egypt mania, man, it took over the world, and it really hasn't stopped. What was your reaction the first time you saw King Tut's mask?
Well, I had the opportunity to see this new museum, this $1 billion museum, and they have literally taken every aspect of the King Tut burial and they've placed it in this huge room. The mask is gorgeous, but there are boxes that are as big as a garage that are gold-laden artifacts that are just amazing. I mean, the mask's impressive. I mean, I have to say that. But when you see it looks like 30,000 individual artifacts that were buried with him, some of the stuff, I mean, and the other thing that's quite unique is everyone thinks that mask was designed for him. Carrie Cooney, who's an Egyptologist at UCLA, said to me, she wrote a book about death in Egypt. That death mask was made for his aunt. And when he suddenly died, they reformed it so it would fit on his body. And all those death goods were, supposed to be for the ant. And so they just turned it over to him, which blew me away, So,
let's take our break right here. Cliff, you stay right there. When we come back, I want to talk about the different temple sites around Egypt, Cliff's favorite spots, and I want to get into some spirituality too as well. We'll do all of that when we come back. Cliff, stay right there. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. While into the vortex on Gaia TV, it's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? Go to churchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Cliff Dunning is with us. He's host, of course, of the Earth Ancients podcast. He's an author. He's a researcher. We're talking about ancient civilizations tonight. And we were just talking about Egypt. And Cliff, I wanted to ask you, do you have a temple site or a site in Egypt that you think of first? And did you or do you have a spiritual connection to that site?
Hathor in Dendera is just a phenomenal temple. And about 4 years ago, I was into telluric energy. I was studying it and wondered where these temples were sitting on. And I brought some tools with me. One was a meter to test the energy in the room. It was on my iPhone. It was a very rudimentary measurement tool to measure the frequency. And it turned out that many of the rooms at Hathor actually had a radiating energy. And later, Muhammad was explaining to us that some of these rooms were used for birthing chambers. Mm-hmm. Some of these rooms were used for meditative states of mind. And the further up you went, those rooms were used for meditative purposes. And of course, according to Muhammad, 2 of those rooms were stargates used for leaving one location and moving to another. So that whole temple is a unique facility, and it sits on a ley line, a telluric ley line, which means it's constantly bubbling up energy. Now, the other thing that's interesting about Hathor is that it's also sitting on a much earlier temple. I don't know if you've seen it, Jimmy. When you go to some of those crypts, you've been in one of the crypts. Those crypts sit on top of another temple that's below. We don't hear about it because the Egyptology groups don't want to, dig into that previous history. But it's very likely that there's a very old temple underneath the Hathor temple, which is typical of ancient cultures. They will build original site, and then they'll want to keep that energy flowing, so they'll build on top of it, and this goes on and on and on. We don't know how old the earlier temples are, but there's significant age and also significant energy there. I did a short meditation on my own one time, and I've never gone so deep before. I was like kind of scary. I felt like I was leaving my body, sitting underneath one of the columns as you first walk in the temple, and just closing your eyes and just relaxing. You can feel it. You can feel the energy in that place. So very, very special temple.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I definitely left my body at Dendera. I've told the story many times. I'll just share the short version with you. I was there on my birthday, and October 10th. And so the priest of the temple comes up and says, okay, it's your birthday. I'm going to show you a couple of things that nobody ever gets to see. It's like, man, save the sales pitch. Okay, it's my birthday, but come on. So anyway, he goes, first, I'm going to take you into a temple that hasn't been opened in 20 years. You're going to be the first people in it in 20 years. Here are the keys. And it was next to the main temple, out back, in the back.
Oh, the Isis temple. You went into the Isis temple?
Went in there and unlocked it for the first time. Old lock, rusted chains, the whole thing.
Wow.
So I and that was unmolested. You could tell it was perfect. None of the faces were carved out. Everything was like brand new. But you know what else was in there? 2 light bulbs. Yes, sir. Just like in the crypts.
Oh, really?
Right there. And I've got pictures. And that was pretty nuts. Up on the wall, just right there. So anyway, and then, so we come out of there and he goes, now. And this is what he says to me. I've got it on video. I'm going to take you to an underground pharaonic lake. I go, oh, a what? An underground pharaonic lake where the pharaohs went to ask questions and get answers. And I'm looking around. I'm like, where? Something but sand. And we walk, and he takes us out to this. There's 3 granite blocks flush with the ground. And in the middle, it's like a U. And in the middle, it's a friggin' staircase into blackness. And I'm looking, I go, how, what? And he goes, it's 100 feet. It's 10 stories underground. And I said, okay. And he goes, no shoes. You must take off your shoes. No electronics and no talking. All right. I'm kicking off my shoes. Right. And I'm videotaping this. And then he points at my camera, my phone, and says, turn it off. So I turn it off. And we descend, dude. We descend. We go all the way down into the blackness. It was crazy. To a lake.
Wow.
Yep. Right behind Dendera. So we do this whole thing. I run out into the water. This is 100 feet below ground. Run out into the water. I'm splashing, and it was cold water too. That was crazy because it was like 110 degrees up top. And as I turn around, I'm going back up the stairs, Cliff, and I lost it. I lost my shit. I lost it. Like this pink veil spinning. I'm holding onto the walls, and I'm on this moist staircase, 100 feet below ground, and I've got my eyes closed. and it lasted for about 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yep. So when I got back from Egypt, I called William Henry. I called Jay Widener. I called like 4 people that and told them. They were like, I've never heard of that. I said, dude, I went there, and it was crazy. It was pretty crazy. When I came up top, and there were some people up there. They were like, so what was it like? I was like, don't even talk to me. Yeah, man. Total out of body, crazy town. So this is the thing, though. We can analyze this as you have scientifically, right? I come out, I open my eyes, I look into the sun, I'm in darkness, I've got, mineral filled water, temperature change, you know what I mean? The chemical changes that happen in your body, all of these things. Okay, scientifically, we can look at today, right? Melatonin, all of those things. We could take all of that stuff into consideration. But how did they know that 5,000 years ago?
Yeah.
How did the pharaohs know that they were going to go down there? And I have it was mind blowing to me. I mean, doesn't that bring up more questions than answers?
Well, a lot of people believe that the science at that time was earth-based, more harmonics and energetics that are gravitational, telluric, and they weren't generating energy. They were taking energy and magnifying it in those ancient periods. And so when I was there, I just sat quietly. I had an EMF detector on my phone, electromagnetic frequency detector. And in the rooms that had high frequencies, you felt it. It wasn't something you could, say it's not there. And so when I did my little quiet time out by the column, sitting on the column, I first tested where I was sitting, and it was a good spike. And so something was happening there. But as soon as I closed my eyes, I went so very deep. And I've been a meditator for 30 years. And so
did you cry? Did you get emotional?
I didn't cry, but I was shocked at how deep I went. I was like,
right.
Am I on acid or something? I was like,
right.
Is this ayahuasca? No, it's pure energy. And they were able to manipulate energy in ways that we just do not understand for healing. You've been to Saqqara, you've been to the hospital, the area where there's some strange underground sounds and thumping and machinery going on. They were tapping into this earth-based energy in ways that we just don't understand, but utilizing it for healing, for spiritual enlightenment, and for really living in a way that we just don't understand anymore. We're so distant from nature now. We have no clue how to live with nature anymore. And that's what makes ancient Egypt so unique, is that they were very much harmonized with those places, with those energies. It's just amazing. If you've been to the Great Pyramid, and you have, when everyone's cleared out and has had a chance to kind of recalibrate after all the tourists have been in there, you walk into the Grand Gallery, you feel it. You feel something happening there. So that's a big machine. What they were using it for, we don't know.
Okay, so I'm with you on Dendera. It's incredible. For me, the Asarian, Abydos, and Seti the First. Seti the First didn't have shit to do with any of that, by the way. It's so old. But the Asarian messes with me. That's a machine.
Yeah, it's definitely a machine. Yeah. And that's another place where you can get really high readings if you have an EMF app on your phone. You get, the thing spikes if you walk around. And if you're allowed to go into the room at the end of the Osirian where it's covered, there's something weird, some process that was
That's a
going on.
freaky. That's a freaky room, man.
Yeah.
That's a freaky room with that gabled ceiling.
Yes.
Right?
Something was going
It's
on.
got, yeah, man. It's got some juju. No, it does. It does.
They were
It does.
processing something in there.
Yep. All those side rooms too. The small chambers down at the bottom. There's something weird going on there. I don't know that. The Osirian is a mechanical something, and it has nothing to do with Seti the first. Well, you can look at it, and especially when you go down. And I know you've done this when you see where the water's coming in, right? That big sewer pipe or whatever you want to call it. And you just turn on and look, you could see that something was being done there. It's not, it doesn't feel spiritual. It doesn't feel religious. It feels very mechanical and deliberate. And
there's an area as you come down in that room where there's a series of they call them lab techs, and they're all wearing what looked like lab coats, and they're wearing gloves. And so one of the early fears is that was some kind of radiation that was going on in there, but there's never been any detection of radiation that we understand. They were probably just wearing ceremonial clothing, but it's kind of weird to consider, that location. It could be all kinds of stuff. And
those blocks are as big as anything on this planet.
Oh,
ginormous.
Huge. Yeah.
Huge.
I mean, the average block is 500 tons.
Yeah. Huge. And there's 10 of them. And it was covered at one point.
With blocks. Yeah.
Well, some of the blocks are still up there, right? There's like 3 of them.
There's a few that are remaining.
Yeah.
My feeling is that at some point we will develop technology that will be able to analyze what was actually happening there, because there's still some form of energy. It's built over some form of energy that's bubbling up, because the water turns green after you clear it out. You clear it out, you let it come back in, and then it turns green. So there's some effect happening there.
How old do you think the Osirian is?
Probably around the same time the pyramids were built. I'd say 10,000 plus years.
Yeah.
Is my feeling. Just gauging it. And again, it's one of those phenomenon where you're looking at an anomaly like the pyramids, and you're going, who built this and for what reason? Why would you build something that's basically underground? It was covered. Was it covered to protect people, or was it covered because it has a system of moving and changing water in such a way that it creates electricity, it creates an energy? Or was it a healing bath?
Could be.
Hard to say.
Well, and when you stand up on top, when you come out of the King's List hallway, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you come out of that and you come up over the crest, the melted stairs, all that stuff is pretty crazy. Anyway, so when you come up and you're looking at the Seti the First temple, which is above you, and you're looking down at the Osirian, and they're telling you that they were built at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just like, do people believe this stuff? You repeat it over and over again, and it starts to become truth.
The truth, though, Jimmy, is that people they're so shocked at being there in the first place. They're not thinking like, wait a minute, what are those 500-ton blocks doing there? That's not in Seti the First temple. What's going on? They're like, what's going on here? They're shocked. Plus you add the 100-degree heat, and people are just like, okay, I want to look at it and then get
that's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, Abydos that's a trek, and to get to it, it's that little town of Abydos that's around it. Yeah, they cannot wait for a tourist bus to pull in. Because there's no action. There's no.
Oh, the kids will mob you. That's
the kids.
That's where the tourist police come in handy. Is they'll scream at them and get them. They'll scream at the kids to go away.
Right, right, right. But so when you're at the Asarian, you can clearly see like 50 feet of dirt between Seti the First Temple and where
Yeah.
the Asarian is.
Yeah.
It's like, no, 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 no. I don't know the years that are applied per foot of sediment. I don't know. But these are not the same constructions. They
No.
simply are not. What about the Serapeum? What's your take on that?
Well, that's another anomaly. You know, the big question is, how did they get these 50-ton blocks of granite down under the ground? It looks like they carved them once they were placed. And I've had a guy come in there with a certain type of a measuring tool, and it looks like there was some discharge going on there. So they were some kind of energy centers or something.
Well, some of those blocks are melted. You know what I mean? So as you walk through and you look, perfectly smooth, and then you'll see that there's a ripple, and then everything else is smooth.
Like they were heated or something.
Yeah, like they were heated. Yeah.
Yeah. They're real anomalies. You know, they're so huge, and there's so many of them, and you know, this is one of these things that we have to just appreciate the monstrosity of the stonework, but scratch our head when it comes to the purpose. We don't know why they would place, 50-ton blocks of granite, carve them out, and then leave them there.
People aren't in any way prepared for the Serapeum, because first off, you can't see it, right? You can't see it from the road. So you're walking on this dirt road, sand dunes, right? It's the Sahara Desert. And then you come around the corner, and then the stairs are descending down into it, but you don't see it from the road. You have to walk up to it. You're not prepared. You walk through those doors, and it's like walking into a big shopping mall. It's like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Big shop, big with storefronts.
Yeah.
It's like that big. The ceiling is so high and it's so wide. All right. And so you go and you're making left turns and you're seeing more and you're seeing more. And it's so big. And then you walk out, go back up, and then look. It's all sand. It's
totally
all underneath.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think it's funny that and this is the typical explanation, is you go down there, you see these big slabs of granite. They're perfectly cut, perfectly polished. And then you see later generations scratching little symbols on them that are very rudimentary, very childish. This is the Pharaonic period. That's how old those blocks of granite are. They're probably thousands and thousands of years old, but we don't know how old. But we know that the pharaohs came in there and did whatever and scratched their little symbols on them that are very crude and very rudimentary, and they don't even come close to the fine polish and the cutting technology that went into creating those boxes. It's very strange.
It's mind-blowing. It's just I don't get it. When the British first discovered it, and you look at the drawings that they made, it was like 1832, I think, is right in that period.
Yeah.
Look at the original drawings. It looks just like it does today. Can you imagine going in with a lantern, right, in 1832 and looking down that hallway and just like, what is going on here? I can't imagine. It must have been just so cool.
Yeah, I mean, they were blown away. I mean, Petrie, the father of Egyptology, stayed and lived among the pyramids and among the temples for years because he was just so absorbed, And we really learn a lot from him. In fact, he's the one that really gave us the information about Hawara
and Abydos.
And Abydos too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to go inside the Bent Pyramid?
Oh yeah. I'll never do it again. That's the most dangerous thing I've ever done.
It's claustrophobic as hell.
I've done dangerous shit. I've done cliff diving. I've done insane things. I have no problems with. I will never go into the bent pyramid again.
So you went halfway. You thought I made a mistake, huh?
I when I was coming back out of there. Okay, so I'm coming back up, and we had like 80 people in there, right? And I was not digging it. We had 2 buses, 40 people per bus, and we're all packed in, and you can't breathe. It smells like bat pee and carbon dioxide. There's no oxygen, right?
Which drives you nuts because they want people to go in there.
Total lack of oxygen.
There's no air.
There's no air, and there's no way out. Okay, there's no way out. There's no second exit. There's no emergency exit. That doesn't exist. And the tunnel to get in there is this friggin' big.
It's crazy.
For 200 feet at a 40-degree angle. Your back is scraping the whole way, and you got to go face first. You're not going down on your hands and knees no, you got to go backwards on your face, scraping your back.
It's horrible.
Anyway, so once you get down, I'm speaking to the audience. Cliff, you've done it. So we get it, and I turn and I go, is anybody in the tunnel? Nope, last person. I go, I'm out of here. See you guys. And I take off, and now I'm going up, and I go until I can't go anymore. And I got maybe 40 feet from the top, and I could see it, right? The light, but I couldn't move. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. This is how it ends. And I roll over on my side, and I said out loud, this is how it ends. I'm cool with it. All right. And I just and my bodyguard, his name was Eid. Jimmy, wake up, Jimmy. And I kind of picked up I was like that for like 10 minutes in that little shaft, man.
Horrible.
Yeah. And he's looking, and Jimmy, come on, man. Come on. You can do it. I go, no, man, I'm cool right here. Just lying on my side. And I got up, they pulled me out, and I'm dripping in sweat. It's 120 degrees. Right?
That's bad. Yeah.
Oh man. And you're in the middle of nowhere. There's no restaurants.
Did you actually pass out?
It was bad.
Oh, okay.
It was bad. So I make it back to the bus. I sat underneath, the overhangs at the bottom.
Yeah.
I find a little piece of shadow because the sun is like 4 feet from your head. But I find this, and I'm just pouring water, and they're pouring water on me. I get up, I get back to the bus, and I'm telling the bus driver, start this thing up and turn on the air conditioning. And he's looking at me, and then I just went, bah! I vomited, man. Right there, just projectile vomited. Yeah, I'll never do it again. I'll never screw the bent pyramid.
It's funny because I feel the same way. Why they don't pump air in there is just beyond me, because it reeks of chlorine, which is bad crap. And but if you study the outside, it's really an engineering phenomenon, because it's the only pyramid that has perfectly cut outer casing stones that are gorgeous.
Yes.
And they're works of art. And this is something that I look at, and every time I bring an engineer down there, I'm like, look at this. And they're all blown away, because we're talking about 180-foot pyramid, or almost.
It's a big pyramid, by the way.
Yeah.
It's monstrous. It's not quite as big as the Great Pyramid.
No.
But when you walk up on it, that thing is, it's huge, man.
It was doing something, because it's such it's a machine, and it's cut with such elegance and precision. This is a big Chris Dunn's thing, who wrote a book about it, is that the precision level on that pyramid the tolerances are insane. So something is transmuted, something is is projected, something is being done mechanically because it's a big machine. Now, just don't go on the inside.
Well, when you get in there, that's the other thing. So you get in there and they have these giant cedar beams holding the walls apart so it doesn't collapse.
Yeah.
And that was kind of uncomfortable for me. Now it's been standing like that for 5,000 years. All right.
Well,
Okay.
those are added later, but yeah.
No, Senefru, no. They did that while they were building the pyramid to keep it from collapsing. But, okay, so check this out, though. A couple of times I walked the exterior. I won't go back in. Man, that ain't happening. And I tell everybody, are you coming in? No, I got to shoot video for a movie.
That's my excuse.
You guys, you guys go and have fun. So anyway, I'm walking around, which is crazy. And the Queen's Pyramid in the back is pretty incredible too, as well. You don't see that from the front unless you walk back there. You don't even know that there's a second pyramid there. Anyway, I'm walking, I look. Okay, so you know where the stairs are, the entrance in the front. Okay, so if you walk to the side of the bent pyramid, about halfway down, I'm looking, I'm shooting, and I see about halfway up a window. Yep, I took pictures of it, and it's black, and it's there. So I shoot these pictures, close-ups, and wow, that's wild. I haven't heard about that. So I asked Muhammad, and I showed him the picture. I go, dude, he goes, yeah, we don't know anything about that. I said, what do you mean? He said, the air that circulates inside of the pyramid is coming from somewhere, and we think it's coming from that. But because it's so fragile in there, you can't go and explore. So we don't know where that leads to inside of the bent pyramid. Yeah, pretty crazy. It's like, you can tell too, it's like the size of a block, but the block is missing.
So it's like an open space.
Yeah, it's a window.
Wow.
It's a window. It's like a vent, and it's big. Not like the little ones on the Great Pyramid, right? You know, the shafts. No, this is like major. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. Let me see here. No, that's not it. Two. Okay, I'm not going to waste any more time. There's nothing worse than somebody going, let me see if I can find the picture. No, I don't do that.
It'd take forever.
But, yeah. But and Muhammad, who has an answer for everything, didn't have an answer for that. Did not. No, he said did you know that Muhammad grew up in Saqqara?
A small town around there. Yeah. I think
in Saqqara. Yeah. He told me that, so the director of the Saqqara site is his childhood friend, and they both grew up in Saqqara. So we were talking, and I said, really? And he told me, he goes, man, me and Muhammad, man, 40, 50 years ago, we had BMX bikes in the 70s, and we would come out here after school, and we would ride our BMX bikes. There was nobody out here. There were no tourists. There was nothing. Wow. And this is where we played. Yeah. So you think Muhammad knows stuff? He does. He does. What about Elephantine Island? What's your take?
Well, I think that something happened there, an explosion of some kind. And there is one of the most amazing carvings there of a small temple that no one can explain. The tolerances of the cuts are so exact. It's laying on its side. You know the one I'm talking about.
And
it's
a granite phone booth.
It looks like a phone booth, but there's one.
It's a granite phone booth.
There's an exact duplicate on the other side of the walkway that's been blown to smithereens. And Muhammad points one out. There's an exact duplicate of that what you call phone booth, small temple, in a couple of different museums, but they're not as accurate as the one in Elephantine Island. That's a very, very old place. And this is interesting because the Germans, Institute of Archaeology, has been there for like 50 years trying to find something there. And some people think they have found some
The Ark of the Covenant.
Ark of the Covenant.
Mm-hmm.
But if they did, they're sure keeping it quiet because no one's heard anything about it. But that's extremely old place. And likely pre-Diluvian,
magical place. You can you can feel it.
Every time I go there, it's so hot I can't sit long enough to do a meditation. There's no air conditioning. They drop you off on the boat. You get up, you go up the stairs, you do your tour, and then you come back. The museum has some one or two nice pieces, but the real special part of that is that small temple
underneath.
Yeah.
The I don't want to say specifically because I don't want to get him in trouble, but let's just say one of the Department of Antiquities executives. So I'm talking to him, and he happened to be on the island that day, and I had seen him the day before. He was at a dig site. And I met him the day before, and we took pictures together. And the next day, we're at Elephantine Island, and he's there. And so I went up to him and said, "Hey, man, is the Ark of the Covenant here? I can't show it to you now, but the next time you come back."
Oh,
I said, "So it is." Hey, hold, stop. I said, "So you're saying it's here?" He goes, "I'm not saying anything. But when you come back, I'll show you." That's what he said. That's what he said. So I went and I asked a few different people about this. And this is what I was told, that it may or may not be the Ark of the Covenant, but it is an ark. And there may be many arks. And that it has been moved on and off of the island many times. So,
well, like I said, you have to wonder if the Germans have it in storage somewhere. And they're still excavating that site. I was just there, and there's walls that have been put up, and there's it's a nice little side venture. But if there's an Ark of the Covenant, it's not anywhere to be seen.
Well, something you're right, though. Something catastrophic happened on that island.
Yeah.
And for everybody, you can go and look at it. It's right in the middle of the Nile, right next to Aswan. And it's a pretty good sized island, too. It's not small. It's pretty good size. But everywhere you go on that island, everything is broken apart and blown up. Old stuff. The pathway going up to the top that you're talking about, you're walking on pottery.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? You just look down and you can see pottery with hieroglyphs on it.
It's like a bomb went off.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But really what makes that island unique is this fabulous, fabulous temple. And there's no way it was carved by any chisel that we know. It was machined with saws, with sanding technology, and it is probably ancient. It's like the beginning of history. It's so old.
Yeah, that box is crazy. So when the top of the box has got that pyramid
perfect
cut
geometric shape.
You can see that there was a door on it. You can see the holes for the hinges.
Yeah.
Perfectly machined. I mean, it's beautiful. How do a granite box like that? How were you? This is my stupid, perverted mind. How are you getting into those corners and carving them on the inside? You know what I mean? You can't do it today with sandpaper and wood.
No.
You know what I mean? But you look at this box and you're like, oh my God, it's beautiful. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. How?
Yeah. I mean, the Egyptologists don't have answers for that. They kind of shrug because you can't use copper chisels on that red granite.
What's your theory?
That they had some form of machinery that could cut stone. The angles are too perfect, and it's been sanded. It's smooth. I mean, like I
What's
said
your
before.
Okay. All right, Cliff. What's your definition of machinery?
Saws and lathes. Power saws of some kind, powered by some form of energy. This is one of those situations where if we could use a microscope and look at the microscopic surface of the stone, you could see probably cut marks or something going on there. It's not hand chiseled. There's no way. There's nothing there on that temple that is reminiscent of hand carving. It's almost like it was cut on some kind of a die system. You put the block in a locked system, and the blades start cutting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Puma Punku reminds me of that idea.
It's
too,
the same
as well.
thing.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And here we're talking about 10,000 miles that are separating these two cultures, but yet we're talking about the same time period. A very ancient time, but before there's one consistent thing that with the Mayans, with Puma Punku and that megalithic culture, who we don't know who built that, and swinging it back over to Egypt. There's one thing there's written languages. That's all there. We know about taxes. We know about the seasons. We know about, food and wheat and deal making, shopping list. We got all that. You know what we don't have from any of those cultures is a plan, an architectural plan. That it doesn't make any sense because they're not going and building this stuff without looking at the designs.
That's funny you mentioned that because in my book, I theorized that the Maya were migrants after the Younger Dryas. And this is my whole contention. When you look at the oldest Maya, which are in Guatemala, they built the largest pyramids in the Americas. They didn't practice. There's no places that they practice building. They just built those suckers. So those Maya migrated from extensive Europe and perhaps Africa and other parts of that part of the world into the Americas, and they already had the knowledge to build pyramids. Now, most archaeologists are going to say, no, they migrated from the Bering Strait. No, because those guys were not pyramid builders. And if you go to Mexico or Central America, these are the most refined quality pyramids in all of America. They rival Egyptian and Cambodian and Bangkok pyramids, which makes us think that maybe there were blueprints that were handed from Bangkok to Mexico to South America to Egypt. Who knows?
You would think, we talk about Senefru and Imhotep and Dozier. We can do all of this and Khafre and Khufu. All right. Here's the thing. Not just with the Great Pyramid and not with the Bent Pyramid and not the Red Pyramid. I can keep going. And the Step Pyramid. I can keep going. Not any temple, not any tomb, not the Valley of the Kings or mummies and mummification. There is no documentation of any of that.
Yeah.
I don't get it. When we've got everything, we got the minutia of life, but the crazy biggest stuff, we've got nothing. That's mind-blowing to me. one picture, who was it? Was it Herodotus? I think it was Herodotus who said, well, and it was like 500 BC, 90,000 slaves and machines. That's what Herodotus said. But what's his definition of machine? What's he talking about? That's why I asked you, what's your definition of a machine? So what at 500 BC, what's a machine to Herodotus? I don't know.
It's something with a spindle and a piece of leather that is pulled, or something very rudimentary, a real rudimentary drill, but you're not cutting into red granite, and you're not doing it with any elegance whatsoever. And I haven't heard a convincing piece of evidence from Egyptology about using stone on stone, because you know what I'm talking about. When you go to the unfinished obelisk at Aswan, and you walk up to the top of the hill, and they have blocks of stone, and they say, well, this is how they did it, stone against stone. Well, who are they fooling? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, are you crazy? You're insulting me,
Yeah, and so when you get to the point where you can look at the unfinished obelisk, which again just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But to get from that to a fully polished, upright, 250-ton, 80-foot tall obelisk, but smooth, polished,
Beautiful.
and carved and engraved, how does that happen? It doesn't make any sense. And then, but if you back it all the way up, Cliff, you can go and look at the unfinished obelisk. And if you're lucky, you can step out onto it. Okay? Some people, the right amount of money.
You pay a little bit of money, but you
right amount of money, you can do whatever you want in Egypt. I've tried on King Tut's mask. Cost me $1,000. No, I'm kidding.
I was going to say, dude, what did that cost?
But anyway, you can look at the unfinished obelisk. That's fine. It's 1,500 tons. It's huge. What was the plan? How were they going to get it out of that hole and up here?
Yeah.
What was that plan? Because that's not levers and ropes.
No.
What was the plan? I mean,
nobody knows. And that's where we have to wait for technology to come up. We had to develop sensing devices that can scan the surface to determine if it was energy that cut these chunks out of the obelisk. Was it a heating element? Was it electricity of some kind? When we can sense it, then we can start having answers. But right now, we're not. They're ahead of us technologically to be able to cut a 1,500 ton block of granite, and then they excise it from the surface, from the ground. How do they do that? We don't have a clue.
I mean, today, everybody talks about this, but we can't lose sight of this. The biggest cranes that we have, 100 tons, right? So with all of the hydraulics and cranes and action that we have today, could we lift that obelisk out of that hole and set it on the ground right next to it? I'm not talking about putting it on a barge and floating it down. I'm not even taking it that far. Get it out of the hole. Underneath, right? Where the granite's still there underneath and holding it up. Who is underneath that's going to break that free, rock it back and forth? I don't know, right? I don't know. And then get it out of this hole.
I mean, the sky's the limit on theories about how that was done. Just nobody knows. It's just wonderful to go look at, but it's a real anomaly. You're looking at it and going, how did they do this? It's a freak show.
Do you think the world will be able to handle a previous civilization that was high tech before us? It's
That's
one
one
thing
of the
to talk about
questions.
ETs,
Well,
ET or whatever, but we understand there's a lot of life in the universe. Okay, so we can kind of handle that,
yeah,
but a civilization before us,
yeah.
can we handle that news?
I think so. I think we're gaining ground with the latest discoveries. When lidar was discovered, and they scanned the biosphere of Guatemala and found 60,000 unknown pyramids, buildings, temples, and a superhighway, that gave us a hint that there were sophisticated civilizations before us. A funny thing about that, though, they made this discovery, and then the archaeologist took a look at it and said, Hansen said, it's going to take 200 years to survey and excavate it. And the same thing when we go to Egypt and we see these anomalies, these massive stone obelisks that are not excised yet, but they're cut. There's going to be a point where we begin to learn that there was a tool that was used and there was a signature that was released after the tool was used, and we'll say, okay, this was an element they used to melt stone, and they used a scoop and they scooped it out, and they had the ability to balance the heavy stone using a frequency that floated it in the air. All this stuff's like magic, But when we find out, I think we're totally ready for it. It's like how I feel about UAPs. It's like, stop hiding it. Let us know. Come out of your ships. In fact, I was so discouraged about Disclosure Day that I went into my archives and found a really good interview with Whitley Strieber and Chris Bledsoe explaining their experiences so that people could say, hey, it is a function. It is a reality. It's not just a Spielberg movie where we get to the whole movie and at the very end, something happens. You know what I mean? I'm not going to give the movie away because a lot of people are still watching it. But we're ready. We're totally ready for the understanding of an advanced culture, because when we learn about it, we grow, we evolve. And that's what it's all about, is us evolving.
With Gobekli Tepe, which is one of my favorite subjects, and with the discovery of Gobekli Tepe, that should have done what it was supposed to do, but it didn't, which is proof that 7,000 years before the start of civilization, which is what we're taught, right? Mesopotamia, Giza, 3000 BC, nothing else to talk about here. It all started there. Well, then Gobekli Tepe comes along in 1995 and absolutely demolishes that by 7,000 years. It didn't change things. You know what I mean? It didn't change.
Yeah,
and
I hear what you're saying. They
Yeah.
just put a museum up close to the Gobekli Tepe, and the figures are all wearing loincloths and bearskins. So they still place those people as hunters and gatherers. And it's likely that they were survivors, is what we're looking at.
Can I ask you a question? And you're a nice guy. I've known you for a long time. But doesn't that piss you off? Doesn't that just get under your skin? Because it makes me angry.
It bothers me that the interpretations are still very raw and rudimentary and kind of backwards. But until we can decipher their language, I think that we have to kind of follow pace with it and appreciate Gobekli Tepe as a really cool place. But it's just one step. What pisses me off more is my latest research on the Maya. A Russian, Yuri Norikov, was the initial epigrapher who defined and did early decipherment of the Maya language, but never asked an elder in 100 years what his opinion was. And to this day, there's millions of Maya elders, daykeepers, scientists. That pisses me off because the interpretation of the Maya has nothing to do with the people. It has to do with Western culture, colonialists who came with the Spanish, who burned the codices, who killed thousands of people, millions with their illness. And we're getting this ass backwards interpretation of one of the most sophisticated people in the world. The same thing can be applied to Egyptians. We see these anomalies, but we consider them present day technology. The pyramids are understandable. The Osirian is understandable. No, they're not. But we don't ask questions, we're kind of dummied down. Yeah. So that's what really bothers me big time. Yeah. But I hear what you're saying about Göbekli Tepe. It's like 12,000 years old, and you're saying that it's no big deal.
It doesn't matter. It's so funny. And the company that did the work on my house today. So the owner of the company, nice guy, he came up and he goes, man, I got some questions. I said, okay. I said, about what? He goes, well, I want to talk to you about UFOs. I go, man, can you just paint the house? Just finish what you're doing. We'll talk about this stuff later. And he goes, no, I said, okay, let me ask you a question. Where are you from? Your ancestry. He goes, are you ready? Cliff, you ready? I'm Mayan. I'm from El Salvador. Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you a UFO question. What's your take? And he goes, man, my family, my ancestors, we all believe everything is from there. That's it. And how cool is that?
That is very cool.
In that's how he's raised, right? And where it's just accepted and it's out and it's in the open. And here, us colonizers, up here, where we have to fight, we've got to argue about this, we've got to fight against the establishment and university and what's taught in the history books. That's what pisses me off, where we just can't have an open discussion and just put ideas out there. It's that you are crazy, we are not.
The Native elders who I spoke to were very enlightened, and they look at the world, the ancient Maya look at the world from a human, nature, supernatural perspective. Supernatural. And so when we're getting these interpretations from scholars who are from universities who are not speaking or conversing with the people who still live here, what I've been told is the interpretations that are given on these hieroglyphs, they're only 20% of what's being said. So when we have a decipherment of a stela, which is a stone marker from a king, we're only getting 20% of what he's trying to tell us because we're not interpreting it correctly. So it's a huge loss. And that's why I'm writing this book, because after, 30 years of traveling down there, there's a bigger story. There's a very important story that isn't being told.
The mountains of codices that were burned in those giant bonfires. The complete history was there, and it's all gone. How many survived? 4?
4. Yeah.
4.
Yeah. But I've been told, and in fact, Carlos Barreros, who passed away during COVID, who's in Guatemala, he was about to introduce a codice from a village that wanted to turn it over. But when he died, he was kind of like the intermediate person between the Mexican government and the Mayan culture. And that's not been a good scene for decades. And so we don't know what's going on. But according to my sources, there are still a lot of codices left. They just have to be, we need to get back in touch with the Maya. We need to, respect who they are. And there are Mayan scholars out there. One of the really great ones is a guy named Victor Montoya, who's a Mayan scholar from Guatemala. We need to speak with those guys. We need to have him come out. I'm helping him publish a new book with Inner Traditions on his interpretation of Mayan life, Mayan consciousness. And so the more these relationships happen, the more openness we'll have with these elders, and we can see some more of these codices, so we'll know about the ancient past.
Cliff, just thank you. Thank you for just a wonderful conversation. Where can everybody follow your work and, of course, listen to your show?
You can go to earthancients.com, which is the website, but I just released a new website. Just go to www.cliffdunning.com. It's pretty simple.
Oh, that's too easy. That's too easy. It's too easy.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you again, my friend. Great conversation tonight. And I certainly look forward to our next conversation here on Fade to Black. Thank you, Cliff.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate it.
You're the best. Really appreciate it. Cliff Dunning. And again, earthancients.com, cliffdunning.com. He just does incredible work. And I really appreciate all of his efforts. And with that, today is my Friday. It's your Thursday. So everybody go and enjoy your weekend. Have fun. I'm going to go outside and look at the fresh paint on the front of my house. I'll talk to you soon. But for now, all I've got is go Backley Tap. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go Backley Tappy.